All right, so welcome to Encounter 22 of our Beginning Biblical Hebrew course. Ever in Biblical Hebrew. We're going to be looking at verbs with object suffixes. All right, so as we get started, the first thing I want to ask is if you went over the material in the grammar, if you have any questions or difficulties or something that we might be able to clarify before we get started. Anybody at all? All right, so let's get started.
I have no questions. Yeah, I have no
look
questions.
First of all, the types of suffixes that we might encounter in Hebrew. First, obviously, okay, we can ignore what I said, types of suffixes, but I don't start that out that way. So about object suffixes, that's the first one. That's the type that we're looking at today. Object suffixes are basically identical to the personal suffixes that are placed on nouns and infinitive constructs. We've looked at the suffixes we put on nouns for possession and my house, beitcha, your house, beito, his house. But we could also say b'shom'i, like in my hearing or when I hear, and b'shomacha, when you hear, b'shoma'o, when he hears. These are infinitive constructs. So the linking syllable is accented. This is what we're told in the book, except in the case of chem, chen, and sometimes cha. That is, the linking syllable is the syllable before the ending. Most of the time, it takes the accent when we're adding the suffixes for objects. So, for example, shma'anu is shama otanu. Like shama, he heard, and otanu, us. We're going to look at a bunch of examples of it today. The linking vowel that joins the verb itself to the suffix is the a vowel, either patach or kamatz, depending on the situation, for the perfect, and for the imperfect, or for the jussive or imperative or anything outside of the perfect, it's the e vowel. Okay. If you run across, just as a remark, if you run across at any point a form that you don't recognize when you're reading, something that you can use is called the Analytical Hebrew and Chaldee Lexicon. It's available on archive.org. If you want, I can show you how to find it. And you just look through it, look for the form exactly like it is, and it will tell you, it'll parse it for you. It'll break it down for you. Okay? All right, so when do we find suffixes in Biblical Hebrew? Basically, the same set of endings that we already encountered for nouns are also added for verbs, except for the preference. Normally in nouns, like beito, it's his house, right? The o. Verbs prefer the hu ending generally, whereas you have a. Verbs prefer the ha, like with the actual consonant. And then there's the difference between the first common singular with the subject, which is e, and the object, which is ni, like eni or ani. But essentially, the endings are exactly the same. We see them in the grammar book at I think on the second page of the chapter. If you think about it, and if you look back on the suffixes that are added to nouns, you would see that the table is basically identical. The only thing is that they've swapped out the first two forms, the o and the hu, the a and the ha, switched them out as to which one is more common. Okay, that was on page 270 in the grammar. Okay. All right. So they're used for showing possession in nouns like beiti, beitcha, beito, and beita, beitenu, beitchem. They are used for marking the subject of an infinitive construct. So you've got zchor. Zchor is an infinitive construct, but bezochri is in my remembering, right? Zchor is remember, and bezochri in my remembering. It's like the subject. It can mark the object of the infinitive construct. So Wow, look at that. I put an S on constructs after N. So Zechor and Bezochreini. Bezochreini is like in remembering me. It's the object. Any. Most of the endings are going to be the same for the subject or object of infinitive construct, but the first common singular does switch out. So it adds the noon in there. So, and then marking the object of a finite verb. So Zacharnu, we remembered, but Zacharanu, he remembered us. Zachar, Otanu, Zacharanu. Okay, that's what we're looking at today, those endings. So here we have a table that I threw together. I kind of took it out of Basics of Biblical Hebrew. And this is basically he guarded, Shamar, with all of the personal endings. So we've got it, let's go ahead and read through these one at a time. And we'll think about how Shamar took on the ending to indicate the object, the direct object of the verb. So on my screen, I've got Nathan, Hoshea, and Jonathan in that order. So Nathan, would you go ahead and read the first, and then we'll work through them?
Just read the Hebrew?
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking me to do? Okay. Shmarani.
So how would you break this down? Like,
okay. Like, are you wanting me to discuss the vowels or just the how the
basically what it means? What is the what is the form of the object, and
right?
What
so
maybe what happened to the vowels, if you would.
Right. Well, we had Shamar, which would be he guarded, and we added the ani onto the end, which is the T object as a suffix, and so you had to have some shifting in the vowels because of that, and so that's basically what we've got. Is that kind of what you're looking for?
Absolutely. If we think about it this way, because the accent shifted, then this is now the near syllable, which is lengthened, and this is now the distant syllable, which reduced. Okay. That's basically how it happens. The linking vowel there is ah, because we're in the perfect. Okay, so Shmarani, he kept me, or he guarded me. Hoshea, what about the second one?
Shmarcha, he guarded you.
What's going on with the vowels?
Shortened, the first one shortened because the accent shifted to the last syllable, to the cha. And then I don't know why the linking verb is Sheva.
With the cha, and with ech, they don't change. They're
okay.
Yeah, they stay the same. With all of the second person singular and plural, they remain the same.
Same.
Okay. Great. And Jonathan, what we've got here?
Shemarech, adding the second person feminine suffix, shifted the accent, which reduced the first vowel to shva.
Good. Shmarech.
Yeah.
So shmarcha and shmarech. Good. The next is shmaro, which is exactly the same. It's the shifted accent over. This is now near, and that's distant. There's the alternative form shmarahu. Shmarahu and shmaro both mean he guarded him or it. Okay. We're down here now, Nathan, if you want to do third feminine singular.
Which one are we on? The third feminine singular? Okay. Shmara. And that's the ending. Same type of shifting on the distant vowel and the ma, that it means he guarded her or it.
Great. Okay, Hoshea, we're down here. First common plural.
Shmaranu, he guarded us. No, so the vowel shifted there, and there's also reduction in the first vowel.
Do you remember what the form would be for we guarded?
We guarded. We guarded. We got ni. No. Okay, almost the same.
You got there. Just say all your vowels and you'll be good.
Yeah, sorry. But I forgot. I think the vowels look the same also.
Oh, the internal structure, the vowels are going to be different, but the consonants are the same.
Okay.
Because the accent is going to be here. Remember, the accent will be here. And the internal structure will be normal. Sha, mar, nu. Shamarnu.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So if we wanted to say...
So that's what we were discussing last time.
Yeah. If we wanted to say we guarded him, it would be shmarnuhu. Shmarnuhu. Because the first vowel would reduce. This would become a closed syllable for marnu. The accent is here, and then we have hu on the end. Shmarnuhu. That would be we kept him, or we guarded him. Okay, the next second masculine plural, Jonathan.
Shmarchem. It's a so-called heavy ending, so the accent isn't going to shift for this one. Vowel reduces as usual because the suffix is added. I mean, the vowel being the first vowel to Shiva. And so it's a call perfect third masculine singular plus the second masculine plural suffix. Yeah.
It's fun because it almost looks like you plural kept. The differences between the chem and the tem. Shmartem, you kept, and shmarchem, he kept you.
That's annoying.
So we got to remember that the tem is the normal ending for the verbs, and the chem is an object. So shmarchem, he kept you, speaking to a group of women. Not going to be very common in the Bible, of course. We will see that both shmartem and shmarten don't take object endings. The tem and ten don't take object endings. Okay, we're back to you, Nathan, if you want to take this one.
So that's shmaram. Same vowel shifting, pretty much like the last one I just did. Shorten the distant one, and we're adding the third masculine plural ending. So he guarded them.
Yes, excellent. And Hosea, the last one real quick.
Shmaran. He guarded them, feminine plural.
Yeah, same exact thing for shmaram and shmaro and everything else. So each verb form undergoes a bit of change before adding the suffixes because, you know, the accent shifts and what. In the case of call, perfect third masculine singular, the first vowel, which is now distant, I should say now, reduces. So sha becomes sh. So it goes from shamar to shmar with whatever ending goes there. We already compared the forms, so we'll move on. Basically, now we're looking at the internal verb itself. Each of the verb forms can take suffixes. So shmarti, I kept, shmarti, shamarta, shamart, shamar, and so on. We can add the endings to them except for the tem and ten endings. So these are left blank. When you add the endings, we have shifting within the structure of the verb itself. So in the one CS, we've got shamarti, it becomes shmarti cha, shmartiv, shmartim. Like whatever the ending is, we add it to it. Notice that the first common singular and the second feminine singular are the same form. That's a little weird, but that's how it operates. There are only 16 instances of the second feminine singular adding a suffix in the Bible. So most of the time when you see it, it's going to be first common singular. You don't need to worry about the feminine. Shmalt would be the you have done it. So shmalto, shmaltahu, something like that. Shma, we went over all the forms. When we have the third shamra, it shifts. The first syllable reduces. The second becomes near and is long. And the third closes. So shmarat, shmarathu. Okay, it takes an ending like that. Like here, shmarathu. She kept him. Interesting, huh? So it'd be shmaratani. she kept me. Shmarnuhu, shmarnuni, we kept me, that's kind of odd. We kept them, shmarnum. Like you'd put the ending on there. And then the shamru, first syllable reduces. Shema, this is now near, so it's long. Shmaru, shmaruhu. Shmaruhu. Sometimes we see the u that's internal reduced to kubutz. That just is how it appears many times in the Bible. Okay, we don't really need to know all of the forms. I'm not here to drill these into your head. The idea is for you to basically recognize them. That's all you need to do is recognize them. So we're not going to go over all of these, but this is basically with the cha ending. With that, I think we're okay because, like I said, the endings are the same as they are with noun possessive endings. So it's not a lot to go over and memorize. But for the most part, you just need to be able to recognize it when you see it in the Bible, and it will become easier as you read more text from the Bible. So we're going to look at some examples from the Tanakh, just a few examples, and then we'll have some translation from the book of Ruth. We'll go over an introduction to the book of Ruth because we're going to be starting it this week. We're going to be reading it on Tuesday, chapter 1. All right, so the Tanakh. The Tanakh is a transcription of the Hebrew word Tanakh. Okay, it's an acronym formed from the initials of Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim. Torah is law, Nevi'im, prophets, and Ketuvim, writings, meaning the hagiographa, the holy writings. It's used to refer to the Hebrew Bible in Hebrew. It's how we call it in Hebrew, Tanakh. The double apostrophe is called Gershaim. Gershaim, it means, it could be used for quotation marks or something. It's used to mark acronyms or abbreviations in Hebrew. It just goes right there between the last letter and the next to last one. Gershaim is also the name of this accent. If you see this word here, Amar, it's got the Gershaim on it. So this will also indicates trope, a singing, a string of notes that you sing for that. And a single one is called Geresh. Geresh and Gershaim. These are two trope marks from the Bible. Okay, and we use Gershaim here to mark acronyms. So examples from the Tanakh. This is from Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 8. Okay, Deuteronomy 7:8. I'll read through this real quick, and then we'll look at the examples, and I'd like some parsing, if you don't mind. So, Ki me'ahavat Adonai etchem. This is the word ahava and the word yir'ah are used as infinitive constructs, even though they're technically nouns. So this is from loving God, you. In other words, from God's loving you. Hu bachar bachem, umi shomro, this is an infinitive construct, shomro, et hashvu'ah, asher nishba la'avotechem, hotzi Adonai etchem, mimitzrayim biyad chazaka. I've inserted these words that are in braces because they were implied from the previous verse, but they weren't present in this verse. So, for, because, from God's love for you, because God loves you, He chose you, ubachar bachem, He chose you, umi shomro, and from His keeping, this is the subjective suffix, it's God's keeping, His keeping, umi shomro et hashvu'ah, the oath, from His keeping the oath, asher nishba, which He swore, to your fathers, la'avotechem, hotzi Adonai etchem, the Lord took you out from Egypt, mimitzrayim, biyad chazaka, with a strong hand, or a strong arm. Hotzi is from yatsa. This is hifil of yatsa. It means, yatsa means he came out, and hotzi means he brought out, or took out. Okay, so how about we start with Jonathan? I'll give you the easiest parsing here. We're going to do stem, conjugation, PGN, suffix, root, and gloss. There's no suffix, but what is this word here?
Bachar? Is that what you're pointing to? Call perfect third masculine singular from Beit Chet Resh.
Meaning?
And gloss is he chose.
He chose. Good. Normally when you have Bachar, you're going to have it followed by Bet, the Bet prefix. Bachar Bachem, he chose you. Okay. Nathan, if you would, this one here, it's a little more complicated.
Umishamro, sorry, Umishamro.
But this one is also O, this one.
Oh, it is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's integral to the structure.
Right, Mishomro. Although my accent was wrong there. Mishomro. Okay, so I mean, that's either going to be infinitive construct call, which I think is what it is.
Call infinitive construct. Does an infinitive construct have person, gender, and number? No, but it has a suffix.
Yeah, it has a suffix and the mean prefix too, right? Or is that part of it?
Yeah, we're gonna act like they're not there for purposes of conjugation.
Okay.
We're gonna ignore prefixes that don't have to do with the meaning of the verb.
Okay. And then the third masculine singular suffix.
Yeah. And is the suffix subjective or objective?
Subjective.
Subjective. Good. And it means and from his.
And from his choosing or keeping.
Keeping. The from here. The from here could be because of, like it's on account of or something.
You have to kind of figure it out in context.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yeah. The next one is nishba. Hosea.
Nishba. Okay, no. Oh, wait. We have a ni here. Is this a nifal? Or?
It is nifal.
Nifal, nishba from shava. Swore.
But the conjugation, is this perfect,
conjugation.
Imperfect, justive?
Perfect. 3ms. Third masculine singular. Suffix none. Root shava. To swear. To take an oath.
Yeah. So with the third masculine singular, we're going to say he swore, right? He swore.
He swore.
Who is this? Who is the subject of this verb?
Adonai.
And can this take an object? Can you have an object after nishba?
It's nifal. No, I'm guessing.
You can.
It can.
Look at shvuah.
Okay.
Shvuah is what God swore. So his keeping the oath which he swore. So obviously this can take shvuah as its object. Yeah. Fantastic. It can. Like even though it's nifal, we shouldn't think that nifal is completely a passive binyan.
Okay.
There are roots that appear in the nifal and are not passive, like lilachem, to fight.
Yeah.
Of course, lilachem comes with some kind of preposition after it. Lilachem be mishu or im mishu. But normally, although normally it's passive from the kal, we shouldn't think that it always is. It can't. Some nifal verbs can have objects. Okay, and Jonathan, this is why I gave you the first one, so I could give you the last one here.
Hotzi. It's a Hifil perfect third masculine singular from Yatza. We have in the Hifil, we have it changes the yod to a holum in the Hifil, so that's confusing.
And that's going to happen with all first yod.
All first yod, yep. Yep. And then he brought out, or he caused to go out, or something like that.
It can also be he took out. Like
Okay.
Hotzeti kesef me'aranak, I took money out of my wallet. Hotzeti. Very nice. Okay, we've got another one. This one is from, the next few verses are going to be from Deuteronomy chapter 6, and they have to do in the beginning with the passage we memorized for the last section of the course. This one says, V'shinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha, u'v'lechtecha v'derech, u'v'shoch u'v'kumecha. This is shoch, that's O, shoch becha. It's infinitive construct. Okay, leshanen. Let's see. I've got the verbs here for you to break down. I want to do this one because it's it might be a little confusing. Okay, the verb is shinen. Shinen. It's PL, so we would call it by infinitive lishanen. Lishanen is to repeat something several times, probably for the purpose of memorization or passing on knowledge. So vishinantam has the vav prefix. We're going to ignore it. It's a PL. It is it's perfect, but it's used as a vav conversive. So it's you will repeat. Okay. Vishinantam.
Conversive. Jesus.
It converts it. Converts it from the perfect to the future. So so shinanta would be the normal perfect form. Shinanta. And the is that suffix ending. So vishinantam means you will repeat them. It means the words that Moses is telling them to repeat. So what we have, PL, perfect, vav consecutive, vav conversive. Second masculine singular, it's you will, with the suffix that is third masculine plural, them. The root is shin nun nun, and the gloss is you, and you will repeat them. Okay, so you will repeat them to your children. You'll speak of them when you sit down in your house, when you go on the road, and when you lie down, and when you get up. That's basically the verse. So the second verb is this one here. Okay, so I'd like you to explain, Nathan, as much as you can about the verb, like what's it talking about, where is the accent on the word, what syllable. Tell us everything you know about it.
Well, it's PL, right? Jump in as soon as I'm wrong.
I'm sure you're going to get it right. Does this verb appear in the kal, by the way?
Probably not. I don't know.
I kind of mentioned it last week, but you might not have seen that
here.
There are some verbs that only in the participle appear in the kal, and this is one of them. So we have dover and doveret, and dovrei, whatever. It's people who speak something, a speaker of a language. Can also be a spokesperson for like a company or something like that. But generally, no. Generally, it doesn't. Generally, it's a PL verb.
So this is PL.
Can you tell us what the indications are that show that it's PL, by the way?
Oh, the Hidik and the Dagesh.
Yeah, the Hidik and Dagesh are good indicators. Many times with the PL, you also have here Patach.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, obviously the Dagesh is sort of the biggest one because of it's sort of what's known for. But
yeah, that's why the stem is called the D stem, because it's D doubled in the middle.
And so I'm having a little trouble with the top part because I'm trying to think about what it, because you bought a top bomb, so you will. Is that second masculine singular then?
Yep.
Not the bomb, the verb. Okay, I had to run through stuff in my head. It's interesting jumping back and forth between programming languages and this, but I have to do it because, you know, you got to work, right? I got that. No suffix on this one. The root is dalet bet resh, and the gloss is well, that's a vav consecutive, so it's and you shall speak.
You didn't. I didn't hear the conjugation. Is it perfect, imperfect, just?
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Right. So perfect with vav conversive. Great. Fantastic. I didn't hear anything lacking. It was very good. All right. Next is b'shivtecha, Hosea.
Okay, b'shivtecha. Wait. In what's that? Construct, infinitive construct, right?
Infinitive construct. That's correct.
It was gone, and then conjugation, shivtecha. Is this wait? You have there. Wait. Let me just say what I can recognize. The ka, you.
Yep. You or
and
your.
its subject, your subject.
Okay.
Shivtecha. But I don't recognize what stem is this. The e.
Because it's unfamiliar to us, right? The infinitive construct here is shevet.
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 Okay.
The taf is added in there. Okay, it's not part of the root. The root is yod shin bet.
Yashav.
Yashav.
Right.
We have a few verbs that, for whatever reason, lose their first letter, and then they add taf on the end. So shevet is sitting or dwelling, and lechet, like here, lechet is from halach. Halach is lechet, and the word lakach, he took, lakach is kachat. Kachat. So these three are really important verbs, and they add a taf at the end.
The taf there, do we consider that as a suffix, or it just happens?
It's part of the infinitive.
It's part of the infinitive. Okay.
So if you say to sit, you say la shevet.
So basically, how do you determine the stem of verbs that lose their initial? Is this kal? Sorry.
It's just that they're so common that you get used to them while you read.
Okay.
In modern Hebrew, we use them. These are the verbs you use all the time. So to go, lalechet. Lalechet is to go. אני רוצה ללכת לחנות ולקנות כמה דברים. I want to go to the store and buy a few things.
In your
ללכת. So eventually, when we get to the weak verbs, we're going to probably have a list of infinitives that are going to be odd, that don't follow the normal. Because you would think it would be like lishov, to sit, like lipol, but it doesn't happen. It happens like this. I'll show you.
You're sitting. So it's a kal infinitive construct.
It's infinitive construct. And there are some indicators, because infinitive constructs are basically the only forms that come after prepositions. They'll come after prepositions, and they will have suffix for the subject. Okay, so how would you render it?
In your sitting?
Yeah.
Oh,
in your sitting. In your sitting means when you sit. Right? In your sitting is when you sit. So in this case, when you sit in your house. Bevektecha. Okay, when you sit in your house. All right, the next verb, Jonathan. Uvelechtecha.
Uvelechtecha. Sorry. and when you walk or in your walking.
Or
It's,
going, right?
Or going, yes, of course. You're walking unless you're riding a camel or something. So we have a vav on the front. We have a preposition in, or it can mean when, but I don't know if that's the best way of looking at it here. And it's an infinitive construct because of the suffix and because it takes prepositions. If you can't remember la lechet, then just remember if there's a preposition on it or a suffix. That's what helps me. So a second masculine singular suffix in your walking.
So in this case, lechet is the infinitive construct. When it takes the suffix, it's lechtecha. So my going would be lechti. Okay, lechti, lechtecha. So in this case, and when you go on the road, that means when you're traveling, when you're sitting at home and when you're traveling. And the next one, Nathan, this one here. Notice this is an infinitive construct, so that influences how you pronounce this syllable.
Right. Uveshoch bacha. And that's again. Let's see this. Is that a call infinitive construct?
Yep.
Okay. With that's obviously no PGN on that suffix is second masculine singular. The root is shin. Well, I always mess up between cough and kuf. It's cough, right?
Yep, cough.
I'm stumbling now. Back to alphabet stuff. Bet, and with the vav and the preposition in. Let's see, and in you're lying down. Is that it?
Yep, and you're lying down. Yep. So when you sit at your home, when you travel on the road, when you lie down, and the last one there, Hosea.
Uvkumecha. Okay. So we have here in your rising up.
Yes.
Very nice.
And in
Very
your
good. From lakum. Lakum is the infinitive construct. Lashevet, lalechet, lishkav or lishkov, lishkav, and lakum. Good. I wanted to point out, and I think I put a note here. Yes, we'd normally expect beitcha, beveitcha, in your house, and kumcha, uvkumcha, your rising. Can somebody explain the segol that is present in kumecha and beitecha instead of the shva? Anyone have any idea? You can raise your hand and Hosea, go for it.
The accent.
Why is the accent shifted? What's going on there?
Because because it's in the end of the verse for the kumecha, and then you have
what do we call it when it's at the end of the verse and it influences the pronunciation?
Yeah, I forgot that you said that before, but I just remember that it usually blends. Forgot what
you remember what you do to a movie. What you do to a movie if you don't want it to move forward, you push.
Push.
What do you
pause
do?
Button.
Pause. Okay.
Pause.
So we call this pause. Pause is where the verse naturally would have a slight stop.
Stop.
Okay. So this word is in pause. So kumcha becomes kumecha, and this word is in pause. So beitcha becomes beitecha. But what about this word here, levanecha? It sounds the same. Beitecha, levanecha. Is it the same phenomenon?
Man, you're mean, Jason. Mean.
I'm sorry. We have to think through these things to figure out what's going on.
I don't know actually.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Nathan?
I don't think so, but I don't know why. I think
It's valid not to know.
what?
It's valid not to know. It's valid. And I don't know is a great answer if you don't know something. What is levanecha? It could mean a couple of things.
Building? Is that bana?
You know, there are a few verses in the Bible where, like banim, the rabbi said the rabbi said in the Talmud, we should read it as bonim. Bonim are builders, and banim is sons.
Right. Okay. So that's sons. Your sons, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a
Yeah.
verb.
So the first one, you shall repeat them to your sons or to your children. So what happens is whenever you have the plural banim e, and you add the cha ending, it becomes banecha.
Oh,
Is that plural construct basically?
It's basically the plural construct taking a suffix.
Okay.
So if you're speaking to a woman, you would say banaich, your sons, banaich. My sons are banai.
So how do you point like Bnei Israel?
That reduces the first syllable because this accent goes to the next word. So it's b with shva, and then sere. Sere joins. It's a long vowel joining to the next word. So what we have here is not the same phenomenon, but it sounds the same. Banecha sounds like bitecha.
One thing though, if you want to be unconfused, this is pronounced banecha, not banecha, which would be a sere with a kamates, but Jason doesn't pronounce seres like a anyway. But this is definitely banecha, not banecha.
Yeah, the yod is there not for pronunciation, but only as an indicator of the plural. Because if you didn't have the yod, then beit nun kaf sofit is your son, bincha. So having the yod is an indicator of the plural, and then we know to read it as banecha when you don't have vowels. Okay. All right, next verse is from 6:9. It's the last verse of the first paragraph of the Shema. Uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha. There's that pausal form again. Uvish arecha. This one is the plural ending. Okay, so uchtavtam. Jonathan, what do you make of that?
Uchtavtam. What should I call this, Jason? Vav consecutive. Perfect with a Vav consecutive perfect second masculine singular with third masculine plural suffix on it. So you will write them.
You will write them. The root katav. Fantastic. If we wanted to say instead, and you will write, without a suffix, and it's you plural. We want to say you will write. How would we? It looks the same, but how would we pronounce that? And you plural will write, Jonathan.
You plural will write. Y'all will write. Uktav tem.
Yeah, uktav tem. The difference is and a. So this uktav tam is you singular will write them, but uktav tem with would be you will write with no object. Great. So you shall write them upon the doorposts of your house or the door frames of your house and in your gates. It's one of the commandments of, yes, Nathan, what do you want to say?
That ending is probably why I came on today. Because I was sort of like, I'm pretty familiar with these endings. I'm just going to stick with the reading thing on Tuesday. And then I thought, there's been a couple that have been frustrating me, and that's one of them. So thanks for clearing that up.
From the Shema?
The Tom versus Tem.
Ah, excellent. Well, I'm glad that I pulled that up.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've looked
Yeah.
at the text.
He was
Right,
really
from
just
here.
trying to catch me off guard. He did because I wasn't paying full attention. I think he called me on it.
All right, so here we got Deuteronomy 6:12. This is no longer part of the Shema, but it's still a nice verse to look at. This is a really nice verse. Nathan, do you want to try to read the whole thing? But notice the accent on this verb.
Right. Hishamer lecha pen tishkach et Adonai asher hotziach me'eretz Mitzrayim mi bet avadim.
Yes, very nice. Very nice. The first verb, of course, is hishamel. It's often followed by the le preposition. Hishamel lecha, like watch yourself, be careful. Okay. It could also be in the plural. Not so common in, but it does occur. All right. How would you parse this word here, hishamel? What's the stem, the conjugation, and such for this one?
We're still on me?
Yeah. Mm.
Okay. This is hifal, right?
What?
Is it hefil?
Nope, not this time.
No. Well,
Look at the indicators in this letter. Why is the sheen doubled?
right. Now from here I can just guess, but that's not going to help. I don't remember.
Okay, no problem. Hosea, do you remember by any chance?
Nifal.
Nifal. Why is it nifal?
The assimilation of nun.
Yeah, because that sheen represents nun
Yeah.
sheen. It's
Sheen.
been doubled. Mm-hmm.
And then
Also, the nifal we said hishamel, hikanes.
So this is, what did you say this one was?
Nifal.
Nifal.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a new that's been absorbed.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
It's been
I'm stuck
assimilated
now.
into the sheen.
That's okay. This isn't a.
So
this
that means in memresh, right? I suppose it still is, but I'm stuck where the hay is coming from then. So
Okay. For whatever reason, in the nifal, when you have the imperative, it starts with hey.
that's why I'm stuck. Imperative.
Yeah, this is an
Okay.
imperative.
This is saying guard yourselves, like you were saying. Watch out. Be careful.
Yeah, it's imperative. Yeah. So we've got nifal, imperative. What's the PGN? Person, gender, number?
Second masculine singular,
yes, it is.
right?
Mm-hmm. Is there a suffix?
No.
Okay, the root you already
And
said
already
is
said the
shamal.
root in memresh. And we've already said the gloss
so,
too.
So basically, if you think that shamar means guard, then hishamel is like be guarded. It's
right.
like guard yourself. Watch out. Mm-hmm. Okay. Great.
Thanks.
I didn't give a translation for the whole thing, but this says watch out for yourself, lest. Pen is so that not, lest it happen. You don't want it to happen. Lest you forget tishkach, okay? Lest you forget the Lord who brought you out.
Yatsa again.
So the next verb is tishkach. Hosea, if you want to run that down for us.
Okay, tishkach. So we have here shakach. The imperfect. Is this imperfect?
Mhm.
You have imperfect, and you have doubling in the kach. Is that doubling? Wait, no. Tishka. Tishka. Is this PL? Oh,
Nope.
no. No. But it got doubled. So what are my choices?
Is it doubled?
Maybe. And then yeah. Lest he. I'm lost here. Help me. There's no suffix.
There's no suffix.
And so there's no suffix. Tishka.
Tishkach could be two different forms.
What
It could be second masculine singular or third feminine plural. Third feminine singular, excuse me.
Singular. Okay.
Mhm. So it could be you will or she will.
She will. Lest here. Yeah, that's what they are.
Is it kal, PL, nifal, ual? What is the stem?
Yeah, oh my. I don't know. Sorry.
You're not supposed to follow my example with the I don't know thing.
Yeah.
I'm sitting
I really do believe in the validity of the answer. I don't know. Like I think that
yeah, I don't know.
that's the answer to a lot of questions in life that people won't admit that that's the answer to. So don't be ashamed at saying that. That's it's a fine thing to say. Only in the kal do you have a closed syllable in the imperfect at the beginning. A closed syllable that's got an I in it. Let's see, in the hifil you also have a closed syllable, tashlich. But this is kal. There's no additional vowel anywhere. It's just like lishmor, which would be tishmor, but there are some verbs that have an a theme vowel. Sometimes it's because of the guttural coloring it. Sometimes it's because it's a stative verb, is what they call them. But many times you have an a in the second syllable instead of o. I think if this were tishkoach with an o, you would more readily recognize it as kal. But it does happen like this, tishkach. Tishkach is kal, imperfect, second masculine singular, and there's no suffix, and the root is shachach, which means, in this case, you will forget.
Forget.
You will forget. The pen is a negative prefix, right? It means that you not forget, lest you forget. Okay. And the next verb is a fun one for Jonathan. But you're muted.
Sorry, it's the same verb I got last time. What are you doing? This is all fixed. All right. Hotziacha. So we have call perfect third masculine singular from hifil perfect third masculine singular from yatsa with an object suffix on it. Second masculine singular. So
meaning?
who brought you out?
So he brought you out.
Yeah. He who brought you out. I went with the asher. Yep.
Okay.
He brought you out.
Yisham elecha pen tishkach et Adonai asher hotziacha me'eretz Mitzrayim mibeit avadim. Watch yourself, lest you forget the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt from the house of slaves. A nice verse. I wanted to go over a little bit about getting into Ruth because our next step in reading is to begin the book of Ruth.
All right. So, I need to leave, Jason.
All right, man. We'll catch
You all,
catch you next time.
yeah, you'll catch me at some point soon, I'm sure. But good job, everyone. Especially Hosea and Nathan. Very good job. Especially since Nathan is multitasking. That was exceedingly impressive. All right. See you,
It helped
everyone.
that I find Hebrew more fun than work. So
Yeah. Well, my kind of guy. All right. That's why I'm here too.
yeah.
See you, folks.
Bye-bye. Anyway, so we are beginning part 3 of our workbook. Part 3, yeah, I don't know if where's the camera? Intermediate Biblical Hebrew Reader, yeah. We are finished with the Genesis story of Joseph, and now we're getting into Ruth. So we're going to look at a total of 6 verses from the book of Ruth. But before we do that, we're going to look at them now. That looks beautiful. Oh, I have good news too. I got this in the mail today.
By the same author, Dr. Vance. Who's that?
This is the indication that my Aramaic book has finally arrived, so I'm going to pick it up in the morning.
That's great.
Yes. So we are going to be beginning Ruth chapter 1. As we do that, we need to look at a few things here. First of all, the vocabulary is listed by chapter. So we're going to see the vocabulary for chapter 1 of Ruth on page 197, and then you've got chapters 2 and 3, 3 and 4. There are only 4 chapters of the book, so that makes it nice. According to the author, you should look at the vocabulary the week before. Like last week, you should have been looking at the vocabulary for the first chapter, but whatever. It's not such a big deal. But you do need to be familiar with the vocabulary before you go through the reading. Nice. It's wonderful, beautiful. Can't wait. So there are some glosses in the text, but they do slowly go away as we go further into the reader. Page 197 starts a group of word lists. It's important to spend as much time as possible just memorizing the words before you go into the reading. It's a good idea to write out the new vocabulary. That's from Glossa House, right?
Yeah. So it's
It's also Ruth.
It's got Ruth, Esther, and Jonah all in here.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. We're going to look at some other resources in a few minutes.
Sorry.
I want to check something out.
I'll mute.
I want to check something before we move forward. Just a second. Oh, that's Jonah. Okay. All right. So there are 3 resources I want to give you. I wrote down 2 in the presentation, but there are 3. So it's a good idea to write down the new vocabulary words for yourself on paper, or type them out on the computer, whichever you do. The practice of writing them out engages more senses and commits the words more formally to memory. If you just look at a list of vocabulary and you go and you say, okay, I got it, you don't really get it necessarily, but if you write it down and you spend time with it, then you'll have better chance with the vocabulary. If you want, I'll create a Quizlet set for each vocabulary list with audio. I can make that if you like. For the remainder of the course, your vocabulary will come from these chapter lists. Okay, they're all on I think 10 pages or less in the reader, and they're before all of the reading. All right, so using audio recordings, this is what I want to show you for resources. There are several options for listening to the Hebrew Bible read aloud. Machon Mamre is a website that has all of the Bible, and it has the Talmud, Jerusalem Talmud, and the Babylonian Talmud. It's got Targum Onkelos. We went over it the other day about how to look at the of the Torah. So just plug into Google Machon Mamre audio, and it will pull up a chapter by chapter recording of the Bible that you can just click on Ruth chapter 1, Ruth chapter 2, and it will read it for you out loud. It's very nice. The second is an application on the telephone that's called Bible.is. It has the Hebrew version called Modern 1995 Modern Hebrew. It includes the whole Old and New Testament with audio recordings. And there's also animatedhebrew.com, animatedhebrew.com, that has a Hebrew reader with the same the same guy as Machon Mamre, but it breaks it up into manageable chunks. If you'd like, I can show you how to access that as well. In the meantime, I really would recommend this Bible.is. It's really, really nice.
That animated one's the one you sent us earlier, isn't it? Today?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But I think we're really going to use it for Jonah, because the book of Jonah has a good comic book edition, just like the House edition. So we'll go over that another time. I just wanted to show you real quick the screenshots that I took on my telephone of Bible.is. It has all of the text, like this is the book of Ruth. You just have to go down until you find the book of Ruth in Hebrew. But it's got all the text in Hebrew. You push play and the audio will play. It's a modern Israeli pronunciation, very smooth and clear, that reads straight through the text, and you just follow along. So it's quite nice. I do recommend that application.
Is the Ruth in our textbook the same as what you can see in the Hebrew Bible?
Pardon me? Sorry?
Is the version of Ruth in our textbook the same as what we can find in the BHS? Or they also added some?
As far as I know, the text is completely unadapted. As far as I know, the text is completely unadapted, and there are some glosses and some footnotes that explain some things that are happening with the text, but it's unadapted, and you should be able to read along straight from this to the audio Bible. All right, so in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, in the beginning, it would be a good idea to read through the chapter once in English before beginning your Hebrew reading, I think. You shouldn't do it forever, but in the beginning, there are still many forms that will be unfamiliar to you. And just to reduce stress, like to feel calmer, you should read it through in English and get a feel for the contents of the chapter, and then go at it in Hebrew. After you've read it through in English, read through it in Hebrew quickly, preferably by using one of the audio methods, either from Bible.is or from Machon Mamre or from animatedhebrew.com, to read it quickly. Feel free to pause, to repeat any difficult pieces of the text, and to replay the audio. If you do the one on animatedbible.com, it actually has segments. You can do segments of the reading. You don't have to do the whole chapter, so that's really nice. Once you've listened to or read through the chapter, go back through it on your own and do your translation in the workbook and on paper or on the computer. And then go through and read it again. Like, just read it. The more you read, the better your memory will hold on to it. And then you'll say, oh, I get that word. I didn't understand that word before. It didn't stick in my brain, but now it's sticking because I've seen it in context several times. Okay, so with that said, and with our anticipation of entering the book of Ruth, we're going to look at 6 verses as quickly as we can. We still have 25 minutes if we want for this session. So this is the beginning of Ruth, Ruth chapter 1, verse 1. You can do this with your reader if you need the glosses. Let's see what glosses are in the first chapter. Oh, there are a few. So you can go ahead and do it with the workbook if you want, but here is Ruth chapter 1. Nathan, would you read this verse for us? It looks like a big wall of text, but it's really
ויהי בימי שפוט השופטים, ויהי רעה בארץ, וילך איש מבית לחם יהודה לגור בשדה מואב, הוא ואשתו ושני בניו. I have to admit, I've read through Ruth a few times.
Oh, that's why you have the handbook and you have the book.
I think I told you before that I taught a class on Hebrew to refresh my own self, and that's what we used.
Based on Ruth. Nice.
Yeah, so it's a modified inductive method based on Ruth. So
you should be able to tell us what this verse means then.
I should be able to knock it out like that, right? Should be able to.
You want to go for it?
What do you want me to do? Just translate it?
Yeah, just give us a translation. And I'm going
Okay.
to mute myself while I pour myself some Coke.
Okay. And it was the days of the judging of the judges, and there was a famine in the land, and a man from Bethlehem of Judah went to sojourn in the fields or the region of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons.
Brilliant. Hosea knows that I love the word sojourn because it's such a good modern English word that everybody uses every day.
That's right, buddy.
Well, lagur is a word that we do use every day in Hebrew, and it means to live. There's no reason to say sojourn. That's a word that doesn't exist in modern English.
Right. But see, the thing is, I'm so old that we used to use it back when I was younger. No.
Would you say that if you moved to France, would you say I'm sojourning in France?
Well, back when I was a kid, we would have, yeah. Back in the 17th century when I was a child. Sorry about that.
I don't know why that word sets me off. I just
Well, yeah, I mean the challenge is, it's kind of a temporary dwelling potentially, right? We're settling. I mean, what do they stay? 10 years or so, even after the death? But yeah.
So judging of the judges. This is an infinitive construct, right? And it happened. It took place in the days of the judging of the judges. That's beautiful. Notice that this infinitive construct here sets up a time. This sets us in the past in a specific time. And the vav consecutive that follows it, it has a vav. And it sounds weird when you translate that into English. And it was in the days of the judging of the judges, and there was famine in the land. The vav consecutive that follows the temporal establishment clause, this is establishing our timeline. And it happens so often in Hebrew that the opening line of a narrative is going to set the time. And then the next one is going to have vav consecutive that we don't translate in English. That we don't say and. So, and it happened in the days of the judging of the judges that there was famine in the land. So that first vav consecutive is generally going to be translated with that in English. We also see the same thing in Genesis chapter 1, where in the beginning of God's creating the heavens and the earth, and the earth was void and empty. That is that, right? Yeah. Okie doke. Hosea, here we go. Verse 2, Ruth 2. We're going to do Ruth 1, 2, 3, 4, 16, and 22. Those are the verses we're covering right now.
Veshem ha'ish Elimelech Veshem Ishto Naami.
This one right there is the O.
Naomi.
I know this is marked, and it's marked this way in the Bible. It's marked with meteg, which would normally say that we would say na. It's an open syllable, na-omi. But everyone will say no-omi. No-omi.
No-omi. Veshem Mibet Lechem Yehuda Vayavou Sdei Moav Vayiheyu Sham.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Yes.
And there, the man Elimelech.
So there would
name.
be Sham.
Sham.
Yeah.
It's Shem as name. And the man is named Elimelech.
This is a construct state, right? There's
construct.
So
the name of the man is Elimelech. Okay.
Or
and the name
there's no verb, right? So it's was or is. Was.
Was or
The man's name was Elimelech.
was Elimelech, and his wife's name is Naomi. And
But she's probably dead now, right? So it's not is Naomi, but
was. Okay,
she
sorry.
was probably
Was Na-
dead whenever the story was written. So
Yeah,
it
was Naomi, and the name of his two sons, his two sons were Machlon and Kilion.
Mhm.
Ephraim, maybe from Ephraimites from Bethlehem.
Well, it's really Ephrat. So it's
Ephrat,
Ephraim, it's
okay.
Ephrathites.
Ephraim. From that they were, or you just go with it.
Well, this is talking about the whole family.
Mhm.
We know that Bethlehem is described as Ephrata in other verses. It means that it's in Ephrat. It's in this place called Ephrat. So Ephratim are the people who come from that area, specifically from Bethlehem. Where Bethlehem
Of Judah. Ephrat. Vayabou, and they came stay fields, land of Moab, and Yehu, and there, Yehu,
position after it would be they entered the plains of Moab and they were there. That means they stayed there.
plains of Moab. Okay.
Mhm.
They were there.
Very good.
Okay.
Jason,
Mhm.
you said it, especially when it doesn't have what after it on
A preposition.
preposition. Okay, thank you.
Ephraimites, or
Well, Ephrat is a place where Bethlehem is, but Ephraim is the northern kingdom of Israel. That's a different place completely.
so this is a people group, the Ephratim. This describing.
Well, it's Elimelech and his wife and children were Ephratim. They're people from Ephrat, which specifically is from Bethlehem.
So like the county Bethlehem's in, right?
Yeah, we could say county. It's like a county within the region. The region is Judah, and the little area around Bethlehem is called Ephrat.
Ephrat. Okay.
I don't know if that includes other towns, but I just know that Bethlehem is associated with it in several different passages. Okay, I'll read this one. Vayamot, that's an O. Vayamot Elimelech ish Naomi, vatishaer hi ushne baneha. Okay, so Elimelech died. Naomi's husband. This uses ish as husband. And she was left. Vatishaer, she was left. This is from Nishar, it's Nifal. She was left, her and her two sons. They were left without a father and without a husband. Okay, verse 4. I broke this one up. I broke it this way on purpose.
This is mine, right?
Mm-hmm.
V'yis'u lahem nashim mo'aviot shem ha'achat Orpah,
Yeah, exactly.
V'shem You want a translation now, right?
Yeah, yeah. What's the verb first? That first verb there.
Nasa.
Mm-hmm. And nasa means
to lift, pick up, bear, carry.
Mm-hmm.
So they picked up for them women, Moabite women. Basically, they got a couple wives, Moabite wives for the sons.
Right. So laset isha means to marry a woman. Laset isha. So if you say to a woman, even today, if you ask a woman, "Will you marry me?" you use the nifal of this verb of laset, to carry. And so you say, "Will you marry me?" You say, "Hatinas ili." Hatinasi li. Tinasi is the nifal imperfect. Tinasi, you will be carried. And li, to me. Hatinasi li, will you marry me? So this is, they married. They married for themselves Moabite women.
The name of the first was Orpah. And the name of the second was Ruth. And they dwelled there about 10 years.
Great. That kem means about, right? About 10 years. Good. Hosea, there you go.
Okay.
This is verse 16, by the way.
Oh, okay. Vatomer Ruth al tifgei b. V. Tifgei leazvech.
But it's an infinitive construct. So what's the syllable here? It's infinitive construct. Leozvech.
Leozvech. Lashuv me'acharai. Yik.
Yeah,
sorry.
Tell me this suffix here. Would you read that as subject or object? Leozvech.
Object.
Object. Good.
Ki el asher tel
Okay. Like if you want, but I'm just saying that I broke the lines intentionally because these pieces go together.
Okay. Uva asher talini alin amech ami ve velohayich Elohai. Okay. And Ruth, oh, this is the dramatic part. Sorry. And Ruth said to Tifgeivi, to Tifgafa, Faga. What's the root of this one? I don't recognize this.
Haga.
Haga. Haga, shoulder?
It means to hurt.
To hurt.
Don't.
You, to leave you, to forsake you, to shuv, to live from,
to go back.
To go back. Oh no, me'achar, after you.
From behind you.
From behind you. To go back.
Don't hurt me by making. In this case, she's basically saying, "Don't hurt me by making me leave you."
Don't
right
hurt.
For leaving you.
For leaving you.
To turn back from behind you means to stop following you.
Wow. So I never knew that it's worded like this. Because which
Yeah.
And in Talini. Talini. What's the root of this one? Malik.
Well, the root here is for staying somewhere. This is a temporary staying. Like
Okay.
if you stay in a hotel. Hotel is called malon. It's from lalun or lalin.
Lalun. Okay. Lalin, yeah. Stay overnight. Okay na. And where you will stay, I will stay. And your people, yeah, this line. And your people will be my people, and your God will be my God.
Yeah. This line is famous for conversion, for converts to
Yeah.
Judaism, because
Oh.
Ruth was a Moabite woman,
Mm.
and here we have her saying, where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. So she's
The context here is beautiful, though, isn't it? You know,
yeah.
This is right after what has left, and it's just the whole. You know, when you're reading this verse, at least that's been my experience. You know, I almost break down at this point. It's just
there are points in the Hebrew Bible that just affect you that way.
Yeah,
They really
yeah.
do.
And it was very nice of you not to make us translate today, at least the where she tells them to go back to the houses of your mothers, because that one's really weird.
Yeah. I figured you guys can read that on your own, and then we'll talk about it next week.
Next week.
Okay, great. This actually is it really is used in Judaism in conversion. When you talk about conversion, the idea of your people becoming my people. I'll join the people of Israel, and your God becoming my God. I will the God of Israel. And so it's really nice. And so, this is our last one. Sorry.
Are we going into the part of discourse analysis or for this?
I would not in this course. I'd like to do a new course on that topic. I would. Actually, I would have to spend time in the textbook myself because it's a difficult textbook. All right, so here we go. This one's mine. But tashov, this again is from lashuv. The u becomes o. Bitchilat tzir seorim. All right, so Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, with her, the one returning from the fields of Moab. And they entered Bethlehem, in the beginning of the barley harvest, the harvest of barleys. Yeah, good. So this sets the stage for what happens with Ruth actually trying to become part of Naomi's people, and how she goes about it through the kinsman redeemer and the story of Boaz and all that. So that's where we are in our setup for the reading of Ruth. Are there any questions or difficulties that you had with the lesson? Anything we need to clarify before we can go ahead and call this a success?
Success to me.
This, like we said at the beginning, this is not an easy topic to deal with. The whole object suffixes, it's not easy. But your goal is recognition, not creation. So it's okay.
Yeah. Sir, I have a question about that. In recognition, how do you do it? Do I look at a table of all the roots and then try to see the differences between Nefal, Hefer, and Pual?
I wouldn't say recognition for the sake of reading a table, but recognition as far as reading the Bible.
Okay.
So
And what do you?
I'll try to find some text real quick that I can share, and we can just look at it and see what we mean by recognizing it in the Bible.
And sir, what can you say about reading the Hebrew text while being assisted by a Bible program? thing to do.
Just don't
Same.
become dependent on it.
Okay.
As long as you're able to read, like your goal is to be able to read. And if it's just parsing through a program, then it's not going to be useful. So let's see.
Why I like the reader so much. For me at my stage, it just makes so much, not, I mean, these heavily detailed readers, that's great for just getting off, you know, just getting started in it. But the, I'm talking about the full, like the whole Hebrew Bible reader where it has everything that occurs fewer than 100 times, footnoted, that type of thing.
Yeah.
That's
And
my
also,
opinion.
as I read the text, in my experience, when I read it as a big chunk, text there and vocabulary plays a large part. But then when I try to zoom in, is this PL or whatnot? Or
I think the
is that
opposite
normal?
is the problem with a lot of people. The opposite's the problem with a lot of people, that they focus only on the small, on the individual words and what, and they can't see the big picture in the text because read one word at a time, or I don't know, they do things that interfere with reading comprehension. You know what I mean? So I think it's a good idea that you're looking at it that way, that you're seeing the big picture, and that when you try to break it down, it might be confusing, but you can come back to it and spend some time with it, and you'll figure it out. As long as you try to get the big picture first.
Because that's what you instructed us to do, right? Read the passage, and then I have a vague inkling of it.
Yeah, I mean that. Treat them like they're, I don't know, mathematics, and they're just trying to analyze it and break it apart, but it needs to live. It needs to exist as a spoken word and as a word that you read and hear in your mind's ear. And that's the only way that it really sticks with you. You know, I'm not finding text that I want to really go over, so maybe we'll save some stuff for next week. It's already 3:30, and I do need to get myself to bed actually. So.
All right. Thanks again.
Thank you so much.
I
sir.
really appreciate it. Thank you guys for participating and for being here. You guys make it happen.
Okay.
Have a good night.
We'll see you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.